you probably don't think about it much. The glass of water you didn't drink, the 2 hours you sat without standing, the deep breath you forgot to take. They feel small, harmless even. But over time, these little things can quietly chip away at your health, your energy, even your independence. This video isn't about fear, it's about awareness. About the simple habits we overlook after 60 that could be making us feel older, stiffer, and more tired than we need to be. And the good news? Most of them are easy to fix. So if you've been feeling off lately, more tired, less clear, less connected, maybe the answer isn't big. Maybe it's something small, something daily, something gentle. Let's talk about that together. Part 1. The habit of forgetting to drink water. It always seemed harmless. A day goes by and you forget to drink much water. You get busy. You don't feel thirsty. Maybe it's cold outside. Maybe tea or coffee feels like enough. You sip, here and there. A glass in the morning, maybe one with dinner. That should be fine, right? But over time, something begins to shift. Your skin gets drier. Your mouth feels sticky. Your head hurts more often. You feel foggy, fatigued, and not quite sure why. And the worst part? You don't connect it to hydration, because when we think of health after 60, we talk about vitamins, heart rates, cholesterol, walking speeds, but not water. We forget the most basic need. Our bodies, especially as they age, rely deeply on consistent hydration, not just to quench thirst, but to keep everything inside us working smoothly. Joints, kidneys, digestion, brain, mood, balance, blood pressure. You may not feel thirsty like you used to. That's not because your body needs less water. It's because your internal signals have dulled. It's a natural part of aging. But it doesn't mean you need less water. It just means you have to be more intentional about getting it. And if you don't, the effects are slow, silent, and serious. Mild dehydration can cause fatigue, confusion, dizziness, constipation, headaches, even increased risk of falling. And here's the thing. It doesn't take severe dehydration to feel these effects. Just being slightly underhydrated every day chips away at how clear your mind feels, how strong your muscles are, how stable you feel when you stand up. I once spoke to a nurse who said, "You'd be shocked how many seniors come in thinking they have a medical emergency, when really they're just dehydrated." And honestly, I believe her. I've had days where I thought my blood pressure was off, or I felt too weak to move. But a tall glass of water, sipped slowly over 15 minutes, brought me back. It's like oiling a rusty machine. The parts are all still there. They just need a little help moving. So what do I do now? First, I keep water visible. A glass bottle, on the kitchen counter. A mug near the chair where I read. I don't wait for thirst anymore. I sip throughout the day, not all at once. Second, I flavor my water if I need to. A slice of lemon, a piece of cucumber, even a splash of herbal tea. Not because it's fancy, but because it makes me want to drink. Third, I pay attention to my body in new ways. If I feel lightheaded, sluggish, or my lips feel dry, I drink. Before I assume something's wrong, I hydrate. And finally, I treat water like medicine. It's not just a habit, it's care. A quiet, essential act of wellness that no pill can replace. Because after 60, your body is more sensitive to the small things. And hydration? It's one of the smallest, most powerful gifts you can give yourself daily. Not because you're sick, but because you're still here. And you deserve to feel as alive as possible. Start with a glass, not because you're thirsty, but because you're worth it. Part 2. The habit of sitting too long, too often. It starts with a chair. You sit for breakfast, then maybe move to the couch to read. A bit later, lunch at the kitchen table. Then back to the armchair, maybe with the TV on this time. A nap, a little scrolling on the phone, dinner. some quiet evening time. And before you know it, the day is done, and your body has barely moved. It doesn't feel dangerous. In fact, it feels gentle, safe, still. But here's the thing. Stillness, over time, becomes stiffness. And stiffness becomes weakness. And weakness becomes risk. The risk isn't just physical, it's emotional, mental, even spiritual. Because movement is life. The less we move, the less we want to. The less we stretch, the less we can. And soon, what was once a quick walk to the mailbox starts to feel like a chore. The stairs you never used to notice become a small mountain. What many people don't realize is how slowly this decline sneaks in. It's not like one day you're fine and the next you can't move. It happens in little ways. You stop bending down to pick things up. You avoid certain chairs because they're too low. You hold your breath to stand up. You use your arms to push yourself off the couch. These aren't failures, they're adaptations, but they are signs. And if we don't pay attention to them, they grow. And here's where it gets real. Long periods of sitting aren't just about stiff knees or sore backs. Studies show that sitting for hours each day is directly linked to higher risks of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, and even earlier death. That's heavy. But let's not stay in fear. Let's move to action. What's the antidote? Small, intentional movement. Not marathons, not gym memberships, just presence, awareness. A commitment to not let the chair become the place we live. Here's what's worked for me. I set a timer. Every 30 to 45 minutes I stand. Even if it's just to stretch my arms or walk to the kitchen and back, that little act tells my body, you still matter, you still move. I've placed light hand weights near my reading chair. Nothing intense, just enough to curl my arms a few times. It reminds my muscles they have a job. I park further away at the store. I choose the stairs slowly, carefully, but intentionally, and I dance, yes, alone, in the kitchen. No one's watching, and if they were, I wouldn't care, because there's joy in movement. There's dignity in it too. The goal isn't to become young again. The goal is to remain connected, present in your body, capable in your own way. Because every time you choose to move even a little, you're voting for your future. So here's the invitation. Stand up, stretch, walk to the window, open it, feel the air, let your legs carry you a few steps, and thank them. Your body has carried you through a lot. Give it the respect of movement, not as punishment, not as discipline, but as a quiet act of love. I remember a moment last winter. I was sitting wrapped in a blanket, watching the snow fall outside. It had been a quiet week, a slow one. I hadn't left the house in days. And when I finally stood up to refill my tea, my legs felt foreign, like they didn't remember me, like I had stepped out of someone else's body. That moment scared me, not because I was in danger, but because I realized how easy it is to forget to use the very body that carries us. How quickly strength slips when we're not paying attention. Since then, I've made a promise to myself. I don't go a day without moving, even just a little. I stretch in the hallway. I roll my shoulders while brushing my teeth. I march in place while the coffee brews. I've turned the act of movement into something sacred. Tiny rituals that remind me I am still here and I still can. So if you've been sitting too long, if your body has started whispering that it's being ignored, listen, and then respond. Kindly. Because the cure isn't in doing more, it's in doing something, anything. Start there, and watch how your body thanks you. Part 3. The habit of eating. Just to get it over with, it doesn't seem like a big deal. You grab a snack, you eat standing at the counter, you microwave something quick. Dinner becomes more about convenience than care. The days of setting the table, cooking from scratch, sitting down without screens, those feel distant now, maybe even unnecessary. You tell yourself you're not that hungry. You say it's just easier this way. And it is in the moment, but over time that convenience starts to cost you. Because what we eat and how we eat is more than just fuel. It's a message to your body. It's an act of connection, of rhythm, of care. And when you start eating, just to get it over with, your body hears that too. After 60, our digestion slows, our appetite shifts. Our body becomes more sensitive to missing nutrients, to irregular meals, to meals that lack fiber, protein, color, and variety. You might not feel the effects right away, but slowly the signs creep in. You feel more tired. You lose strength. You bruise more easily. Your skin dulls. Your mood dips. You start forgetting words or what you walked into the room for. It doesn't feel connected to food, but often it is. I remember when I stopped cooking real meals. I told myself it didn't matter. I didn't need much. I was fine with toast, or a frozen dinner, or whatever snack was nearby. But I also started waking up tired. I lost interest in things I used to enjoy. I felt more anxious, more impatient. And I didn't realize I was undernourished. Not in calories, but in care. Then one day I made myself a full lunch. Not for a guest, not for an occasion, just for me. I plated it nicely, sat down, ate slowly. No TV, no phone. Just me and the food. And something shifted. I felt grounded, calm. Like I had told myself, you matter. You are worth the effort. That was the day I started seeing meals not just as food, but as an anchor, a ritual of nourishment, not only for the body but for the spirit. Since then I've made a few changes. I eat sitting down with a plate and proper utensils. I light a candle sometimes, or open the window. I try to include 3 colors on my plate, greens, oranges, something fresh. I prep some things in advance so I don't default to snacks, and I aim for protein in every meal. Eggs, beans, fish, chicken, even nuts. Not perfectly, but intentionally, because the goal isn't to eat like I'm 30 again. The goal is to eat like I still care about living well. So if your meals have become rushed, random, or routine, I invite you to slow down, not for the food, but for what? The food reminds you of that your body is still listening, and it deserves to be heard, that your spirit still stirs when treated with kindness, and it deserves attention, that you still matter, enough to feed, enough to nourish, enough to sit down and stay a while. Start with your next bite, not because you're hungry, but because you're home. I think about my grandmother sometimes. She used to say, even a simple meal deserves a proper seat, and she meant it. No matter what was on the plate, rice and eggs, soup and toast, she sat with it like it mattered. She'd bless it quietly, take a breath, and eat with both hands free, both feet grounded. There was dignity in that, not fancy, not rigid, but intentional. And I think many of us have forgotten that. Now our meals come with a scroll, a screen, a rush to finish. We eat while distracted, barely tasting anything. We treat food like a checklist item. But your body notices that too, and with age, it becomes less forgiving. So I've learned to come back to that little phrase. A simple meal deserves a proper seat, because when I treat my meals with care, I treat myself with care. Not out of guilt, not out of fear, but out of deep, quiet respect for this life I'm still lucky to live. Part 4. The habit of forgetting to breathe fully. Breathe in. Now breathe out, slowly. When was the last time you truly noticed your breath? Not because you were out of breath, not because you were stressed, but simply because you wanted to. Notice it. Most of us breathe all day without a single thought. It just happens. Automatic. Unconscious. In and out. In and out. But what we forget is this. The way we breathe affects the way we live. And for many of us after 60, we start breathing shallow without realizing it. Short, high-up chest breaths that don't fully expand the lungs. We're not in danger, we're not sick, but our breathing has become tight, small. Why does that matter? Because shallow breathing over time signals the nervous system to stay in a low-level state of stress. It keeps your heart rate slightly elevated, your muscles tense, your sleep lighter, and your digestion slower. It sends a subtle message to your body that says, stay alert. Something might go wrong, but nothing is wrong. We're just breathing, like it is, and the more we do, the more tired we feel, mentally, physically, emotionally. I remember one evening sitting by the window. I was watching the light fade, and I realized I hadn't taken a deep breath all day. My shoulders were tight, my chest felt constricted. I wasn't anxious, I wasn't panicking, I was just holding breath, holding tension, holding everything in. So I exhaled, fully, slowly. Then I took a breath in, deep and wide, like I hadn't in weeks, and I almost cried, not from sadness but from release, from the realization that I had been starving myself of something as basic as air. Since that day, I've made it a practice. When I wake up, I pause. 3 slow breaths before I check my phone. Before meals, 1 long breath to settle. When I feel overwhelmed instead of reacting, I breathe. And at night, lying in bed, I place a hand on my belly and just feel it rise and fall. These small moments change everything. They don't fix life. They don't solve pain. But they remind me, I am here. I am safe. I am still breathing. And that's enough to begin again. If you've been feeling foggy, tired, stiff, overwhelmed, consider this. Maybe it's not your age. Maybe it's your breath. Try this now. Exhale fully on all the way. Then take a slow breath in. Let your ribs expand. Let your belly rise. Pause at the top. And gently release. You don't need to control it. You just need to feel it. Because each breath is not just air. It's presence. It's life. And it's yours to reclaim. No app required, no equipment. Just you and this quiet gift always available. Breathe well, not to fix yourself, but to come home to yourself. I once met a retired teacher at a community wellness group. She was in her late 70s, bright-eyed and calm. She told me something that stayed with me. I don't meditate, I breathe, that's all. But I do it like it's sacred. She explained that every morning before her feet touched the floor, she'd place a hand on her heart and just breathe for 1 minute. Not to fix anything, not to analyze her life, just to notice, to be. It reminds me, she said, that I still belong to this moment. That line, I still belong to this moment, has lived in my mind ever since. Because as we grow older, it's easy to feel like life is moving on without us. That we're becoming background characters in a world that's rushing forward. But our breath, it never leaves us behind. It stays, it grounds, it reconnects. And sometimes, that's all we need. So if today feels heavy, or fast, or confusing, come back to your breath. Let it anchor you, let it hold you. You're not broken, you're just human. And you're still breathing. That means you're still becoming. So here we are, 5 quiet habits. Nothing flashy, nothing revolutionary, but each one, a small doorway back to life. Breathe a little deeper. Sit down to eat, not just to refuel, but to honor your body. Move, even when it's just around the house. Sleep like you mean it. And don't let the silence fool you into thinking you're alone. You're still here. And that still means something. If any part of today's video stayed with you, even a sentence, even a breath, I hope you carry it with gentleness. You're not too late. You're not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to begin. Again, if you found this helpful, feel free to like, share, or leave a comment below. And if this video reminded you of someone, maybe share it with them too. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, Take care of yourself. And remember, your life is still yours.